We are in progress. How many of you guys have not ever used Ranks? So you've all played with it at one time or another?
During your sessions, we've looked at it, and I opened an account and played with it once, long time ago.
And Damien said he sent free accounts to each of you. Did you all get them?
I did.
Let me double check.
Yeah, I got my email from him. Yep.
You got yours, Marinella?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did you get a chance to log in? Check it out?
I did, frankly, about half an hour before the meeting. And at first, it has such a bare bones feel to it that, one of the first times in my life, I had to go and watch a video to see what I'm supposed to click on, because the first stuff I clicked on, was not showing me anything. So, yeah, I played around with it a little bit.
It can be kind of a pain to start if you haven't ever played with it, but it's like once you do it once or twice, you go, oh, I should be.
Well, what I remarked upon is that it's a complete opposite of SEMrush, because with SEMrush you open it and it's overwhelming how many different tools there are, and they keep been introducing new stuff all the time, so it's the look and feel is completely different from SEMrush.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything that's just like it, but this is where you should see when you first log in, you should hit this page. The picture of you on that mug, Marinella?
Is that what?
Is that your picture on there? Oh, now I can't see it. I saw it when you picked it up before, but now I can't see it. Too close to the camera. You're on mute. There you go. So anyway, the first one that you want to use is the page analyzer. You can go through the other stuff and mess with them later, but if you go to the page analyzer, that starts all the stuff that you want to do, that you want to see. And you can use this on any website. You're not restricted to the number of websites that you can do. Of course, that comes with the account, but you can do competition. You can have multiple pages open at the same time and then be comparing them. You can download the stuff. So you can start with just say, I want to test my competition, or you can test your own site. As you saw, I was testing this one. I'm going to close this window. I was testing silver and black because we just put it together. I've been to the meetings where we're talking about it, still in the midst. But there was one thing that I found when using this one. Oops. The right buttons. I just put the URL in the first line of wherever you want to go, and don't worry about the keywords or anything else. Just hit go. And once you do that and mess with it for a while, you'll go, oh, I see what I'm doing. I've never seen any reason to put the keywords in there, but I understand why it's there. If you're very specific and you say, you've already been working on this site, I just want to check these sets of keywords. You can do that too. But this shows you the keywords that the system found on the page. And the part where I had a problem was I know that this site already is at the top of the search engines for one term in particular, and in 4 different counties where he services. And VoIP business communications, and then the city. This thing comes up in 2 of the 4 counties, these services. And then a third one, he's in the 2nd position, and then I think the 4th one, he's in the 7th position. So and this has just been up for. This site just got updated and moved into place of the old site a week ago. So that was pretty quick. But I don't see in your phrases, you've got all the single words on the left column. And then you start with 2-word keyword phrases, then 3 and 4, 5, and 6. Now his should be in the 4 because he's at the top for VoIP business communications and then in a particular area. And what I'm seeing is it's showing the areas, but it's not combining them with what's in the page and what's in the H1 tag. And I've never seen that before. So I'm hoping that Damien will see this video and say, oh, maybe we need to adjust that. It's got business telephone system, but that's not the keyword term that comes up in the search engines with his page at the top. Anything else just at this point that anybody sees or would consider good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, I don't know if it was good, bad, or indifferent, but I took a site that I was going to start to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy is a mortgage broker,
Okay.
and of course he has, you might just say, keywords all over the place. That was his big problem, and Ranks.nl couldn't. Well, it gave out what they thought was the keywords. But I'm wondering how he makes that determination in his algorithm.
That's exactly where I'm standing right now, because the keyword term that I know he's ranking for, which is a term that's good, it doesn't show it at all.
Doesn't show, yeah.
It shows parts of that term, like phone systems or VoIP phone systems. And this wheel, you can actually turn it into a graph if you want. It's easier for you to read.
Mhm.
But that's just showing you what keywords it found on the page. And you're right, I'm not quite certain that the way the keywords are being found is, I can't say it's bad because it finds a lot of them. It just doesn't seem to find the one that I know darn good and well is there, especially if it's in the H1 tag.
Yeah.
But it's not showing that it is. Not in total.
Well, this particular one that I was looking at had 4 H1 tags on the main page.
Well, that should
Yeah, I know.
help.
That's why we need to rewrite it, but none of those showed up. And I guess that's what you're kind of saying.
Yeah, the H1 tags are not, I mean, it's showing that there are words in the tags, but I'm not seeing
The whole
specifically
phrase.
the term that I know is in the H1 tag.
Yeah.
Which would be down in 4 or 5, depending on the area that it picked up. But it's not picking up any of that. I still find it really helpful because it does show so much information that you can fine tune it. And I don't know if you guys have tried, but you can go to elements and you can see all of the various things, and it'll tell you if you have addressed each of the areas. So when you go to elements, it's talking about on the left side, keywords found in title tag, 34 words found in 8 heading tags, alt attributes, anchor text, description tags, bold tags, italic tags, image file
minute.
names, and the list tags. There's nothing,
Okay, that's,
nothing italicized on that page, so that's why it's yellow. What was that?
you went to the element summary to get that? Is that where
And
you're at?
it is just elements. If you just go to the button elements,
Okay,
and then element summary would be underneath that. So you can click on just headings. And there it does show the VoIP business communications, which is true. That's in the H1 tag. But I don't see that in the list of keywords that it showed. And another thing that you can do is go to the page to find out what kind of authority, what's on that page. And it also, which I noticed, all three of these score things, Fog Score, Flesh, and Kincaid, his service is more than what an eighth grader would probably comprehend in the first place, but not necessarily. So his information, the text that he's used on the page may be a little too much. It's what I see, 15 and 14 is difficult. 12 is ideal, according to Fogg. And his flesh is supposed to be really high. 60 to 70 is considered optimal. He's at 30. So they're saying that it's not really written for an eighth grader, which basically everything should be, or at least very close. So it should be 8 and it's at 13. If you go into one of the pages, let's see if I've been bumped out because I let it sit there. Nope, I just logged out myself. If you go into the pages and change something, this Ranks will actually show you the changes that you're making. So if you made a change in, let's go back over here to elements. And I said, I wanted to change one of these headings. If I change the H1 heading, then this little tiny arrow right up here, double arrow, you can refresh this page to show you the change that you made in the page. Obviously, I didn't make one, so it'll be the same, but you can see that the tab was working at refreshing. So it can be used as you're making changes in the pages. I don't know of another service that does that. Do you guys?
So it can pick up in real time, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes. This will show you real-time information. So if you make changes right now, you go over, and this button is on almost all the pages, I believe, because I know it's here on the first. And it's right here. Again, when you click on that, it refreshes the information, shows you real-time updates. So
I never noticed that.
And that I think is handy because I can sit here all day and say, okay, I'm going to change this little thing. How's that? How did that help? And you refresh and you can see whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And I've done that before. I've just spent hours going, okay, refresh again. I'm going to change that one, refresh again. And I just keep doing that to go, yeah, now the page is the way that I want it. I'm thinking of things that I would get into, but you guys ask, what do you see? What do you want? What would you do with it?
well, I'm working, it's a volunteer thing. I'm working with a nonprofit where I have several people working on creating content.
Mm-hmm.
So the readability scores are horrible. Average words per sentence is 49.
Ooh.
Good God. Yeah.
Wow.
And the Kincaid score says 25. So obviously we're talking over people's heads, that's going to be a big project because there's like 300 pages.
Holy crap.
So that's definitely valuable information. And looking at my tags, I've got a lot of H2 and H3 because they're using that to size their text instead of doing it the way they're supposed to. So
Oh, typical user, WordPress user.
absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I don't want to create all the new pages, but in my recruiting for new people on this committee, I'm going to have to find people that are at least teachable. My number one criminal, so to speak, is a school teacher. So we have that going on too.
So would it help then if you could have this information on paper to show them?
Yeah, I think she is teachable, but she's not a verbal learner. She's a visual learner. So
Mm.
I think that would be helpful.
You see where my mouse is right now?
Okay, print it, download it.
PDF or XML? It's up
Yeah.
to you. Click the button and you decide, what do I want? Obviously PDF, because that's going to be great for people that you're working with to be able to read through the thing.
Well, yeah, and I can keep it
Yep.
for future reference as we make improvements. So yeah, I never got this far into it before. I could definitely see how it would be helpful.
Yeah, if you go down to your, especially on the readability, showing all this information, I mean, it'd be the same with Kevin, the guy who owns this site. Download that and say, here you go. Here's the places that need some work. We're not done with the site at all, but the
Right.
fact is, you've got all this stuff available to you, and especially in your situation, anytime that you need to show, even a client, a lot of times, just a single client, they want to say, well, I'm not sure. Okay, here's a PDF to show you all the stuff. So you know, I'm not lying.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
this is
so
a-
I want to say something about the PDF because I did generate a PDF as an experiment, and I have experience in training other people how to use different content management systems, including AEM, Adobe Experience Manager, which is pretty complex. It's at enterprise level, and I can tell you that the PDF that was generated, I would not be able to hand over the PDF without having to massage it considerably. It's just not, it's an output. It's not, it needs more text around it. And I think that's one thing that this tool is missing. It's fine for people like us who are accustomed to, look at rankings and look at keywords and all this stuff. But for the end user, for the teacher, for the, marketing manager, it's not enough. They need more explanations.
I can see that. That would make sense because, like you said, to us, we'd look at it and go, okay, I see exactly what I need to do here. I know what that's pointing out. And to be honest, I don't think that he ever intended for this to be for the average Joe public.
yeah.
It's basically, developers, here's a great tool, and here it does all kinds of stuff. Let me go to page properties.
But we're going through a lot of transformation right now. I can tell you that where my role is, I'm kind of like at the junction of marketing and SEO and writing. So a lot of the time I come in as an advisor, I come in as a consultant, and I help them get organized. And I train people in how to do it and how to use the CMS and how to write for SEO and how to talk to each other, basically. And the thing is that I have seen marketing managers with access to SEMrush who have no clue how to use it. And the SEO manager role right now is more important than the IT role in many organizations, but they don't talk to each other enough. I've seen some ridiculous suggestions from SEO managers going into to marketing that marketing then rejects, and I think that whatever tool they have to pay attention to the end user, because we're in transition. We're more and more with AI, and that's another thing, a question I had where I didn't see if he was integrating AI into it. More and more, it's
As
the
a
end
peer.
user who's going to be having access and wanting to use it rather than trained professionals.
That's an interesting thought.
Hmm.
Well,
Um,
you know, I agree with her 100%. You know, I just finished a class from Rutgers online, and one of the points that they were trying to make in there is that you've got a bunch of SEO people, you've got a bunch of content management people, you've got a bunch of marketers, and they do not communicate, and they can't communicate because their structure is incorrect. So everybody in each of those groups, and other groups as well, needs to have an education in all the other groups so they begin to understand what we're talking about when we say build it for a 7th grade reader or an 8th grade reader, and put it into the format of the 3rd grade, where you have your statement, your supporting elements, your conclusion, and stuff like that all on the page. Because that's where Google's looking at it now, and people don't understand this. They don't. Everybody needs a little more SEO under their belt if they're a content manager and or a you know, just you can't be a silo anymore.
it seems like what I'm hearing is that it should be, with what I see and am hearing, some minimal changes, pushing it out to general public instead of just to developers, right? What you guys are saying?
I would say, yeah.
Well, so there are actually two levels that I have in mind. One level is general public, and so that would be a question mark. But the other level, which is higher than general public, but not as much as where we are or developers are, is to marketing, digital marketing people. And there are
Marketing.
so many different roles. You know, I just got a query from a recruiter now for interactive media manager. And I look at the requirements of this contract, and it's all digital marketing, but they want SEO and they want HTML and they want PowerPoint and, you know, all this stuff. So there's just so much crossover that I think before he rolls it out to the end user, to the general public, think about making it more usable by digital marketing folks who are not developers, but who have a better understanding of what's involved. And for me, what's lacking is the content, because I'm such a content person. Even though I do technical SEO and I've developed websites, I'm really a content person. And there's not enough about content here. SEMrush has an SEO assistant where as you're writing it, you can see how, you know, your keyword is working out. So even if you don't have a WordPress website and, you know, not using Rank Math or Yoast, you can still get an idea of how the content you're producing is shaping up. So something like that would be great for Ranks.
I'm thinking of the ways to be able to address each the simplest way possible.
Well, he might spend some time with AI to construct a properly constructed paragraph. I'm thinking out loud, maybe that's dangerous, but you know, if AI can do an awful lot of things if you tell it right.
Right. Yeah.
I'm thinking kind of along those lines, if it was AI or some method that actually below this stuff on this page, because it's about the page, how about a text area that is showing the text that's on the page, which we already know it can show by refreshing what you've made changes. And then you've got the text that appears down below, you've got the information up above. So it would be sort of along the lines what you were saying, Marnell, about showing you what you're doing as you're doing it. Now, he may come up with different ideas, but I think all of it is something of value. If you're having if you need to see the text so you can refer to the information that's on this page about the text, then that might be the right way to go. Getting back to the marketing people, it's very rare that I've come across one or two marketing people. Now, Maury's here, but I think he's on a call or busy, but hoping that he'll come up with some information soon. But he's like the different type of person in marketing, because he knows all the stuff that's out there. He knows all the ways to do it, the proper ways to market. But he doesn't push aside web developers and those who are doing SEO. He says, I get that. It's all part. But a lot of marketers feel like, no, you don't need to do any of that stuff. You just market the pages. And it sounds like that's where you are with the people that are in your project. They're like, no, we're marketing. You figure out the SEO because it's not going to work. We're going to make it work because we're marketers. Isn't that kind of what you have going on, Marnello?
Well, most of the folks that I see who are in marketing are only using push marketing
Yeah.
as a process. You know, they forget about pull marketing, content marketing, and all that other stuff. They have no concept of it.
Morris, you getting ready to chime in?
Well, I know what Michael's saying, because I've said this before in other meetings, because all they want to do is sell, sell, sell.
Right.
So everything's push, push, push. They're not worried about the other parts of the buyer's journey, because those people aren't ready to buy, so they're not interested in them. But what they don't realize is that other part is 97% of their traffic. But anyway, my question around the tool is, I hear a lot of talk about changing it, but it comes back to my question for the developer, the owner of the product, is who is his target audience? I don't know who that target audience is, so I have no idea what direction I suggest he should go, because I don't know who he wants to sell it to. If he wants to sell it to marketing people, this isn't even the right tool.
No.
Right.
So, I mean, if his target is developers, then we're taking the train way off the rails if we're talking about marketing people. So I'm confused of what are we trying to accomplish here? What do we want? What useful information can we give this poor guy?
Well, I think you just did. And the questions that we've been asking, the things that it can do, and maybe suggestions, they all have either solutions or light bulbs that are going to go on in his head saying, here's what I'm doing. And I don't know the specific answer to the last question, Maury, but I think his plan, since he created it, was for developers, those who are into SEO. And that's why I kind of pushed the marketing people off the end. You can show them what's in here, and they would understand whether they agree or not, whether they want to do anything about it. That's up to the specific marketing people, because you just never know.
So then the bigger
Tom,
question,
you have to
listening.
look at GitHub. Look at GitHub. GitHub was originally just for, for storing code, right?
Yeah.
And they're opening it up to
Yeah.
all kinds of folks.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that you cannot be static. If you look at the history of businesses that have grown and flourished versus those that have shrunk or collapsed, you have to constantly open up to new markets, new segments of the market.
Right.
So I don't think just catering to developers is going to be, key.
No, I
I've
agree.
worked as a contractor
Yep.
for enterprise companies that pay a lot of attention to SEO, and I know for sure that those companies give access to marketing managers, to SEMrush and Adobe, and others,
Mm.
but they don't always understand how to use it because it's so complex. So a simpler tool that would still have some wrap, some stuff around it, some text helping people navigate it and use it, would actually be in its favor, in the favor of Ranks, because SEMrush has gotten so complex. It's really hard to go through it, to navigate through it.
Agreed. And I think that he is I think that marketed correctly with some minor changes, this tool would be the one that it's kind of more a better go-to, because you like you were saying, in my words, you have tools out there that are overly simplified and they just don't do the job. Or you have one that does the job, but you're going to have to go to school to figure out how to make it work right. And I think this one comes in the middle. You just need a little bit of information, but the novice is going to need more than we would. So knowing what elements are where and how to get to them and click on things, downloading the fact that you can get real-time information, those are all critical for developers. And then to also the general public, but they need to know where to find that stuff. I have used it so many years, I know that it does these things, but there isn't anything that shows. And I think he's got enough room to be able to put stuff underneath on whichever page that you're going on, the right column. He's got some room. And I'm going to say this part too. I believe that he's hoping that the design is also going to be good for mobile devices. I'd say, I don't care. If you're using a mobile device to develop a website, you're doing it wrong in the first place.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you can do with a mobile device in development, but you're not going to take a development from start to finish in a mobile device. It's just not going to happen. So this is clearly, or I should say, in fact, I'm going to try here for a second. I would say this is his way of, yeah. So, okay, it works on a mobile device. Oh my God, if I had to use this on my cell phone,
Mm.
I'd need a telescope instead of just a magnifying glass to read any of this stuff.
You'd need a big bottle of Jack.
Yeah, it's like, no way, I'm not doing that. Even if you switch to like an iPhone 12 Max, so what? That's
Still-
not that big a difference.
Still can't read it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm saying that's fine. If somebody wants to get in with a mobile device, they see what they see, but that's not, I don't think that that should be a critical part of the website. So feel free to add someplace on the right, or maybe even right here under suggestions, you could have some kind of a button or a pop-up about how to use anything in this page. And I know a lot of people look at these opportunities and they're kind of going, well, what's this for? Well, that tells you that they see your page. They see this particular page in position 17 in Google for Silver Telecom. That's not a term that he wants in the first place. So that's back to the beginning of our discussion, where the term that I know is on the page in the H1, and we did find it in the headings here in the information, but it's not showing in any of the keyword phrases or in the wheel. It's only, there are only parts of it. So those two things I think are big. And I don't care about mobile devices. And I do for clients' websites, but this is a tool. I don't think anybody who is a developer who is going to use a tool is going to be worried that it's not made for mobile devices. I think that there are minor changes that are critical, but they're still minor changes. It's not like he needs to completely redevelop the site. Do you guys agree or no?
I don't think personally you can make that statement without him doing a market analysis to find out who and what his
Yeah.
competition is and what they offer and where he would fit in that world of competition. What niche could he fill that other tools aren't already delivering that he could capture and own? Because if he's going to go head to head with SEM Rush, he has no hope. They have too much money now. So he has to find his place in the market first before he can decide how to change it or make it better.
Yeah, I think Maury's right on that. I think he has to figure out if he's looking at strictly SEO people, or if, I mean, even with that, we have to be able to use this information with our clients. So before he can figure out what to do with it, he's got to figure out who he wants to use it.
Agreed.
And then from who his target audience is, what do they want from a tool, right?
Right, right.
Is it, do they want these whiz-bangy fancy reports that any user can read? And this tool, I think, lacks generating those kind of reports, if that's what people want. I don't know what people want. That's what he needs to do his homework on.
I think that there needs to be several options for reports. I mean, if I go 40 terms deep to try and explain it to a client, that's not going to work. You know, maybe you want the first 20. Maybe, I mean, this
I'd go-
opportunity ranking, I mean, if that's, we should be able to figure that out for which keywords we want to pick up and do a report on that. So, and I find the whole, you know, wheel, it doesn't work for me. I have to put it in a graph before it makes
Yeah, I
any
have to-
sense.
I have to have a bar graph.
Yeah. Because the wheel, you can't even see that there's a difference
Mhm.
for the most part.
So he's got that part. It's there for you.
Right. Right. But down here in the words and phrases that we're trying to
Right.
talk to clients about, or talk to content managers about, or marketing people about, it's not friendly for presenting to a client. And that's fine if all he wants is the SEO people, but this information doesn't do any good until we give it to the person who's doing content. And if it's not us, we have to be able to make it make sense to them.
Agreed.
So, Tom, what were your download options before?
You can download to PDF, XML, XLS.
But the report information, I mean, that's just format. You get everything on the page.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you find a,
I think there should be a Microsoft Word option, something like that, so that you could manipulate the things on it. Because I looked at the PDF and it looks ugly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is my marketing hat. You need
Right.
to present it in a nicer way. Let me give you another example. When I'm looking, if I'm using SiteKit, Google SiteKit in WordPress, and I can actually take screenshots of those things and put them in a report, and it would take me less time than taking this report here and working with it. So whatever can be faster, and in the age of automation, it's ridiculous not to be able to, to massage the data. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to generate a pretty report.
I would, I, I would edit the PDF myself, but still it's going to be clunky and it's going to be time
Yeah,
consuming.
I can't disagree with any of that because I'm thinking of the same thing. Oh, yeah, I've been in the past. It's a situation where I know what this is saying, but I wouldn't. That's always just been my way. I wouldn't present it to a client because it would take me all day just to explain it to them.
Right.
Well, that's very true. I know because I've tried. Just, whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
which comes back to a comment I'm going to make about reports and these kind of things. When you let's take a plumber for an example,
Mhm.
and he's going to do a job and he's doing a quote. Most people will scan all the parts to the quote. The only thing they care about is the quote, the end number. So
Yeah.
when they look at an SEO report, all this proprietary language is completely meaningless to them. All
True.
they want to know is, where do I rank? You know, am I at the top? If I'm not, what does it take to get there? They just want to know how rankable, what do I need to do to get there? All the details about CSS and all these other, 95% of the people haven't got a freaking clue what any of that means. It's just mind boggling for them.
Yeah.
They want it simple. It's like, just tell me what I need to do.
This is a good page that is definitely similar to what you were talking about, but we're back again to the keywords. The
Right, but-
keyword that this system is finding is in position 17. It's like, that's not, if it's looking in Google, it will find this. Well, wait a minute. Let me,
Well, I'm going to make a comment. You saw where it said
ahead.
the relevance, like 0.41? That's meaningless to anybody except developers. That means nothing to an end user. He's going to, well, what does that
Right.
mean?
all right, so if I put in, can you guys see the little pop-up window that I've got?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's hard to read, but I can see it.
they almost never come up. I'm surprised it's
Oh.
there.
Yeah, it's showing. White business communication. I can read it.
Let's put in,
Alameda. Okay, that's a city.
come back here.
I'll bet you even the average Joe, if you talk to them about keyword density and said, oh, your keyword density is 2.79, they'd look at you with deer headlight eyes. Like, what does that mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that good or bad?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they don't have that level of knowledge about SEO.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is closer, business telephone systems. So even in the 5 and 6 keyword phrases, I'm not seeing the term that I was specifying.
So that's a problem.
And neither is it in the information, like in opportunity, and it's still not showing in the wizard. Phone systems, but that's not the term. So I'm confused about that. And I was thinking that we were going to have to eat a bunch of words, because if you do specify the keyword term, it'll show you how you're doing for that term. That's not true. And even if I go back again to the Google position, it's telling me that's silver com. So I don't think that Ranks is getting that information directly from Google. I think it's getting it from somewhere else, because I see silver com and they're mentioning SEMrush. Is that what SEMrush is showing? Because that would tell me that SEMrush is wrong too.
Mm.
Which, you know, you guys were talking about nobody's going to be able to compete with SEMrush. And I go, you know what? They have a ton of money, but with something that's overly complicated and somebody else comes in with something that simplifies that whole thing, I'd see that as going, I'd push SEMrush aside and see how far I could go with the simpler one. And if it does what I need it to do, I'd say forget SEMrush.
but you have to first find out if the people that are using SEMrush all believe it's too complicated, or is it just the
Right.
audience that's using it that doesn't know how to use it that thinks it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to sell to a lower knowledge level of people,
Mhm.
then you probably want a lower knowledge level of tool than SEMrush. But if you're trying to sell to highly trained expert developers, they know how to use the SEMrush. They're not going to care if you give me an easier tool. You're just going to clutter it up with all these whiz-bangy interfaces that I don't want or need. It's not giving me the data the way I want it, and that'll frustrate them. So you have to be really cognizant of who you're developing for and who you're trying to sell the tool to. It's not as simple as saying, if I do this, people are going to
But
get it.
Go ahead.
right, but here's the thing. I've worked at enterprise companies, and I can tell you that they're pretty careful because of security, IT security, cybersecurity, that they don't want to roll out a whole bunch of tools for people to use. So they tend to approve SEMrush, for example, and that's the one tool that all of marketing or IT is allowed to use for SEO. I worked at a cybersecurity company where it was taking them a year to approve tools because they were so rigorous about, it has to pass all these checks, and it cannot interfere with our own systems, and all this stuff.
Right.
So in that case, something that can be complex but also simplified, if that's possible, would be great. SEO, SEMrush was just, I've talked to people, I know this, who said, I don't know how to use it. Can you spend some time with me showing me how to do this? Because I get lost every time I open it.
So then the question becomes, is the problem the tool, or the problem the person that's been put into the job doesn't have the training to do it? Because promoting people into a position of failure is very common.
If that's we can't change the way things are right now. If that's the only tool that you're allowed to use because of cybersecurity, then you're going to use it, or you're going to try to use it to do your job.
And it's too bad. I think of Ahrefs the same way. It's like you're providing me information that number one, I know is not true. Number two, the platform is overly complicated. So it's like, I hear so many people talk about, oh, Ahrefs is great and SEMrush is great. The 4 or 5 times that I've logged into either one of them, I go, never mind. I don't have all day to spend to try to figure it out.
But that's the difference
And
between knowing how to use a tool and not knowing how to use a tool.
Yeah.
That's true. And
You're always
so if
going to
I've got-
dislike a new tool.
if I am so stupid that I don't know how to use a hammer, I think in a few seconds I'm going to pick it up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Now that's a tool that's easy to figure out. That's what I'm expecting from any tool that I come across. So Ranks does a lot more, and you guys have said, oh, I didn't realize it does that because you didn't know the button or something like that. But I find that locating whatever that you need to do, and it's there in this tool, is better than seeing the information and going, it's making me dizzy just looking at it. And I'm going to have to spend a lot of time to figure this out. And I just don't want to do it right now.
The
Say,
same
Tom?
can be said from somebody that comes from SEMrush that comes to Ranks.nl. They're going to go, I like SEMrush better because I know how to use it. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the tool and layout. It has to do with what you already know and understand.
But they would still, if you asked them, they would have told you that it took them a long time to understand how to use Rush.
It would take
Or
them just as
Ahrefs.
long to learn how to use Ranks because it's new to them. Anything new is complicated to people. People hate change.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that this tool is easier to figure out. You could figure it out faster than you would with either of those others. And I'm not
I
saying that
agree, and
it's intuitive to
why-
be able to
this is
figure
why-
it out.
I agree. And this is why, for example, for social media marketing, I recommend Buffer over other more sophisticated programs because it's so easy to use and it has the same very simple interface that Ranks has. one thing I wanted to mention is I want to ask you, is there any way to compare domains? Because I have clients who want to target a competitor domain. And I know that with SEO Quake, the free Chrome extension from SEMrush, I can compare websites to identify gaps. And I can do that with SpyFu as well. But I don't know about Ranks.
Okay, you know that I was already logged in on this window, correct?
Yeah.
Just went to another tab, went to the site. You're also logged in on that tab. So yes, you can have as many tabs open as you want. And this one can be, I'm going to analyze Frank's Telecom. And in this one, I'm already doing Silver and Black Telecom. And you could open another. So you get where I'm going. You can open up multiple tabs and then you would be able to compare them. Is that what you meant?
But you're doing a manual comparison.
No, well,
Yes. Oh, you want to say compare this site with that site? Is that what you mean?
exactly, to identify gaps.
That's where
Yeah.
AI would come in handy, because then AI would take the two sites and then do a side-by-side comparison and tell you where your competitor's doing better than you.
Say, Tom, I've got to run.
Okay.
Alright.
There is here on this part, you can analyze whichever ones that you want. So you can compare.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Which is, Tom, why I like Phrase so much. It does exactly what she's asking. I can have it look at my top 10 competitors against mine and it'll tell me exactly what I need to do to compete with them.
That is nice.
Right, it'll tell you their word count. It tells you everything. That's why I say that the tools out there have come a long ways. Ranks hasn't been updated in a long time.
You're absolutely right. And that's where Damien is. Because he's been doing a bunch of other stuff and
Yeah.
he's admitted, I've never advertised, never marketed the site. It used to be really popular and it's not so much now. And I see what he's saying, that I think a lot of developers have said, well, I found this other one because it had bells and whistles and it pulled me in. It's kids with candy. You make enough, SEMrush spends enough money and splashes it all over, and people start looking at that going, oh, well, it's got more bells and whistles, so maybe it works better.
It's been proven 1,000 times over. It's not the best tool that wins, it's who has the best marketing.
Right.
Microsoft is the king of that. Microsoft doesn't make the best tools, but they sure as hell sell more than anybody else.
And
Right.
you know what? The tools that they come up with, and every time that I find a tool, I'm so disheartened with stuff that, oh, Microsoft now has this. Well, they've made it a pain in the butt. And I don't know why, but they shoot themselves in the foot more often than not.
So I said they don't make the best tools, but they sure have good marketing, because man, they grab market share huge.
Like their browser.
So I say, keep in mind, the best tool doesn't always win. That's not. So the theory that the tool is good, it'll sell itself, it just doesn't work.
Right.
Maybe this is where I can put that.
Like that's why every freaking tool on the planet now has the word AI in it now, because people are all hyped up on AI. Whether AI adds any value to the tool is irrelevant. As long as people are buying it, that's all they care.
Well, I'm going to try this one and I'm going to come back and try the text and see what it's got. No results. I've never done this one.
So which comes back to my original point is he has to find, if he wants to doesn't want to change the tool a lot, he's got to try and find who his niche market is, and that's who he needs to market to.
Yep. And I see this tool right here would be really handy, but I already know, like I've told you guys, in Google, this site, this Silver and Black Telecom does rank on first page in several different areas. Well, maybe if I did edit this.
You're missing a word.
Yeah.
Try that.
Still not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's wrong. That needs to be updated. So I think that we're all in agreement. It's like, it could be a great tool, But there are some changes that need to be made, and then he needs to market and figure out who is his market.
And I mean, to Marinella's point, like the cybersecurity people are going to push people to whatever tool they've already validated and tested and accept.
Yeah,
Right.
So to get a new tool certified, to get the cybersecurity people to allow people to use it, is going to take monumental amounts of money and time to persuade them that the tool is safe. The process they would have to go through to be validated is huge. Which is why SEMrush has been through that process. So it's the go-to for cybersecurity people because they don't have to revalidate it again, right?
yep.
So if you're trying to break into the enterprise market, your work is huge to get a piece of that market. It's not simple.
But if he can push this at a cybersecurity firm to ask the process, to find out what he needs to do in order for them to say, yes, we approve that. That would be huge if he could get it approved before
For sure,
he could anybody else.
If he could get their feedback and give them what they want, that would open the door.
Yeah.
He would need to do a 2-level presentation, one for marketing and one for IT. Because I can tell you, I was in a position where I could champion a tool. I had to meet, then I was part of the marketing organization, but I was more technical than the rest of the marketing folks. And so when I couldn't identify a tool inside that was already validated for internal use, I met with IT and I was in a position where I could champion it. But I'd had to pass both the requirements, the needs of the marketing organization internally, as well as the checks and of the IT organization. So there are two types of there's an influencer and there's a decision maker, or actually two influencers. The influencers were IT and marketing. The decision maker was actually the director who had budgetary approval.
That's true in every larger company. The second you get into a company that has more than one decision maker involved, because there's more than one department, each department has their own metric that they measure success by. So no matter what you say to them, you're going to have to speak to each department's metric or they're not going to buy in. That's just sales 101, right? As soon as you get more decision makers, you have to speak to each person's intrinsic value. Because if you talk IT to a marketing person, he's going to go, well, there's no value in that for me, and vice versa. You get into enterprise sales, it gets way more complicated to sell to them because there's so many more different people, all with different metrics of what they measure value by. And you have to speak to all of them. Enterprise sales is a bitch.
Well, I think we've given him a lot to go on. It's given me a lot to think about too. I know I usually start with Ranks, and then I'll use other tools once I have satisfied, or in my mind, I've satisfied everything that Ranks is showing me on the pages of a site that I'm working on. Then I'll go and see what are these other tools, how do they feel about it? And of course, that's where I end up feeling like these things are overly complicated, but I'm just trying to find a spot. So I have to take some time to figure those out. None of them are easy, but I think he's got his work cut out for him. If he wants to keep this site and then market it, it could be a tool, but it's going to have some changes. Anybody else have any closing thoughts?
I think you need to set up an ambassador program, and you, Tom, would definitely be one of them. SEMrush was not as well known a few years ago, and they started this amazing program that they've since discontinued of webinars, free webinars different people using SEMrush for different purposes, different different features, different tools. And it was really, I don't know, it was engaging. They got people from all over the world. Part of the fun was trying to distinguish a Scottish accent to figure out what they were saying, or a Spanish speaker. And it was wonderful. I loved it. I was really sad to see them. I guess they didn't need to do that anymore. But I watched a few minutes of one of the videos that he has on YouTube, and it's just not. I don't know. It's too functional. He needs to put a marketing spin on it and have somebody show something. Just focus on going through one thing. So looking at rankings, or looking at doing keyword research, or the way you've been doing it on Alignable already with the buyer's journey and so forth. And if he does an ambassador program, and he has at least one webinar a month, I think that will grow the audience. That will make more people aware of it, because right now most people are not aware of Ranks, I think.
I agree. And speaking of that, I have actually thought seriously about creating a webinar. I don't know about weekly, maybe monthly, just for developers. So everybody can say, here's what I use, here's what I don't use, here's why, or here's something that other developers probably don't know about, just to spitball things around. And Ranks would be one of those things. It's like, hey, the changes are made, and he makes it that much better. That would be something in the meetings all the time, going, well, let's take a look at Ranks. But you're
I'm
right.
gonna need
I
to-
know when I first found Ranks, it had to be more than 10 years ago, and I have to go through my records and find out. But when I first found it, I was like, wow, I've never heard of this. I didn't know anybody knew about it. I can't remember how I found about it. I was searching for something, but it popped up.
I need to run. I've got a puppy making a racket. So-
Yeah, it's about that time. Well, I think he's
Yep.
going to have plenty to be able to. Thank you for
You're welcome.
joining. Thanks for your input.
Thanks.
I think he's got plenty to be able to at least maybe not make a final decision, but at least know where he's going, what he's planning to do, and maybe make some minor changes and see what happens. He's got to feel this out and see what happens.
He's got to decide how much time he wants to invest in
Well,
it.
thanks.
Yeah. But thank you guys for all your
I've
input.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I always enjoy meeting with you and the rest.
Well, good. Like I said, I'm hoping to extend that. It's like I'm already stretched so thin, so it's a good idea, but I'm not sure when I can find the time.
You have to give up eating or
You
something.
could integrate it,
Pardon?
or integrate it in what you're already doing. Just say that you've got, out of 4 sessions, you already have one dedicated to networking, and then you have 3 where you're doing different things. You could say one of them is more technical, and the other 2 are for, the beginners. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I could do it that way. I would hate for people, because they're so used to just hit that button because those guys are having the meeting, and anybody joins. It would be one of those where, be careful, don't click on it, because this week it's going to be way over your head. I think that a lot of people would end up joining the meeting going, I have no clue what you guys are talking about.
Well,
But
keep in mind, if you run a webinar just for technical people,
Mhm.
you're not selling anybody anything, because it's just there to discuss technical things. So
Right.
you lose 1 week a month to not prospecting if you do that. So
Right.
if that's what you're using it for. I don't know what your goal of the webinars is.
I mean, that was the initial goal, but I think a lot of it is just teaching people, and word keeps getting out further and further, and people are like, we can actually learn stuff from this guy. Because every place else that you go, you're only going to get this much information, then you're going to have to pay to play. And I've never done that. Like if you watch the videos, you're gonna learn a lot.
Mhm.
But you're not gonna be able to come to me and just get all free information. Go to the webinars, it's there. And I address that in each of the webinars. It's ask whatever you want. I'll tell you whatever you need, whatever you want.
Is that like you can tell them where they can go to, or?
There's times I've wanted to. But
Be careful what you ask for.
that's true. Well, I'll hit the stop recording on here.